writing, because there's some different rules for book writing than there is for like marketing writing and advertising writing.
Thank you for tuning into Time for You Evolve for female entrepreneurs. Remember, you have what it takes to achieve greatness. Your time is now. You're here with me. You're ready to change lives and you're ready to change the world. Isn't it time to skip over the confusion and start creating sustainable and consistent results? We're going to pull back the curtain and start giving meaning to life in this podcast. Time for You Evolved. Hey, my name is Lisa Carmichael, and I am obsessed with everything online. It's no secret in this crowded and highly competitive business world, we need to stand out. It's even more important at a deeper level to stand up for ourselves. I'm a farm girl who grew up shy with zero confidence. If someone had suggested that I would eventually start a podcast, I never would have believed it. As a farm kid, I had the unique opportunity to embrace a holistic approach to life. All the seasons of growth were lessons that have helped me and other female entrepreneurs find success when they've been stuck and struggling. The Time for You Evolved podcast is here to help you navigate business online so you can be laser focused and help you navigate the messy and the magical in every season of your business. Pull up a seat to hear the tried and true secrets that other female entrepreneurs like you are facing and get ready for real talk while you learn. This is the Time for You Evolved podcast. They're entrepreneurs ready to work smarter, not harder. Let's talk video marketing. It's the savvy way to attract, retain, and convert faster than any other strategy out there. Who can blame you? Creating videos can be frustrating, time-consuming, and downright intimidating. That's where Big View comes in. It's the solution for your frustration. With Big View, you can create professional videos with ease thanks to its teleprompter app. I've been using Big View for years. Big View is an app that has saved me a lot of time and hassle. The app makes it easy to create professional looking videos. It's an online teleprompter that allows the presenter to keep eye contact with the camera while reading the text they need to speak. Big View allows you to focus on your performance and delivery so your confidence shines through. Whether you're a marketer, blogger, trainer, or business owner, Big View is designed with you in mind. If you're ready to take your video marketing game to the next level, click on the Big View link on my website, lisarcarmichael.com/bigview. Join me and be the best presenter you can be and learn how to make great presentations. Today's guest is a true wizard. Connie Anderson isn't just an editor. She's the secret weapon behind countless authors, helping them craft books that captivate and connect. With an eagle eye for detail and a knack for asking the tough but necessary questions, she makes sure every story shines. Whether it's nonfiction or fiction, she's all about making books the best that they can be without letting authors fall into all the publishing pitfalls. And she's not just behind the scenes. Connie has penned several books of her own, from laugh out loud titles like In My Next Life, I Want to Be My Dog, to deeply moving collections like my favorite, When Polio Came Home. Plus, she's the co-founder of WOW, Women of Words. I love that acronym, which is a powerhouse writing group that's been thriving since 1994. Today, we are diving into all things storytelling, editing, and navigating the wild world of publishing. Get ready for some serious wisdom from our guest, Connie Anderson. Welcome, Connie.
Thank you. Well, I love the word. I love, there's a guy out west someplace who makes these signs, and somebody sent me 18 of them the other day, just how he uses a play on words. And I told somebody a joke the other day with a play on words, and was quite surprised. People my age got it, but younger people look at me like they didn't understand. The clue was stable, and they're trying to think about, meaning he's okay, and what the inference in the joke was, it was a place where horses live. And so they could not, they didn't think the same way. The more I tell my friends, like, oh, that's funny. And the kids go, what are you talking about? Words are something that intrigue people. And I love when people use words in a unique way, not stupid or just like you go, that was really good, you know. And I write them down, I keep them. And this is one of my favorites. It's time to stop looking backwards and start looking at your future. Go forward. I mean, you know, maybe 100 people have said that, but it's a wonderful way of playing with the word forward and backwards and stuff like that. So yeah, it's real interesting how using the right words versus using the wrong words, and how often people get lazy. And I hate a book that I have to look up. I know if you're reading it as an ebook, you can just click and the machine tells you. But if you have it in your hand, you're sitting at a picnic someplace and you're reading this book and you don't know what this. I had a book where I had 18 words I had never heard of before, and I felt she was a very. When I interviewed her, the next thing I did a show on Bloomington's Cable where I interviewed people, traveling authors, and she was going to be an Oprah show right after she left me the next day. So she had pretty high level book, but the idea is she used so many words. So I said to her, did you purposely use those words or are they common to you? And she said, well, as a journalist, they're common to me. I said, oh, I felt dumb. You know, like, how could I not know 13 words in a book? So I try to make sure that if there's a word that I don't know when I'm doing somebody's work, I say to them, does everybody know what? I'll often use a word like, is this the best or the right word to describe this? Because I'm questioning, and if I question it, how many of their readers are going to question? You know, make that feel stupid. So it's about the right words put in the right order, and a lot of people don't realize how important those first pages are, because how quickly someone can put that book away because they go, well, this is so poorly written. So, you know, we don't want to lose them before we get them. So we got to make sure that's really crisp and well written and strong words and stuff like that, so that we got to get them before we can't lose them before we get them. And that means like, this is boring, you know, or this is stupid. And I mean, I've done it. I've put books away after 8-10 pages going, I don't know. I don't think I want to waste any more time on this. So anyway.
I think we sometimes all get stuck. We read a little bit of a book, and if it doesn't keep our attention, or it's easy just to shut it and not go back. I've made it a practice, though, to always finish a book that I've started reading, because I just feel like everyone needs a fair shot. And so a lot of times I'm glad I did.
But it's the idea, as the writer, we should think that way, that not everybody's like you. They go, poof. So if you're going out and buying a hardcover for $28 or $30, you may read it or, you know, donate it to someplace. But it's, you know, it's expensive at that other end as the purchaser too. So
Yeah. So do you have a criteria that you kind of go through when someone gives you what they think is their final draft, but it's only the beginning?
I just went through that with my youngest client. He wrote this book when he was 17 years old. He's now 19. And I went through that with him and he said, oh, okay, that's a great idea. I mean, he was totally with me. We were on a Zoom call, and I'd say, you don't explain this very well. And he looked at me and he said, you know, you're right. And he said, I'll fix that. So, I mean, he was very open to making it the best. And what a great deal as a young person like that, to first off have incredible writing skills, and then second off to be willing to take that advice. So that's what he's wonderful. And I think most people have. If someone doesn't want to take my advice, that's fine. But I just always tell them that their name is a lot bigger on the book than mine. So
That's true. So true.
I remember I met somebody one day, and I said to her, I said, someone told me that you've written a book. And she said, I did. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, well, I didn't have it edited. It is so poorly done. I am so embarrassed. I don't want anybody to know I wrote a book or to see it. She said, I'm so embarrassed. And I mean, that's one of the things that drives me crazy, is when authors cut those kind of corners. because even if we are the best, I worked with a woman who writes books and edits books, and she had 18 sentences starting with the words "so," comma. Now that's not a big deal, but if the reader starts picking up and going, doesn't she know any way to start a sentence besides "sir," "so," comma? So I mean, it happens to all of us. We cannot check on our own stuff. I mean, we can today with the computer, so much easier. We can put in a word and see how many times we've used the word "so," comma. And
Hmm.
go, oh my gosh. And then it makes it easy for you to go in and change it. So, that works out good. So the computers really made our life simpler on that end.
And what are you saying? Did you start out at a time when you didn't have a computer to do your editing?
Yes, dear. Thanks for rubbing it in. I had a red pencil and paper,
Yeah.
and they had
Okay.
to print it out and get it to me printed out. And then I had to write on there, and then I had to get it back to them. So absolutely. And it's a very different thing. This young man said to me yesterday, he said, I love seeing all the red, which means it's the tracking tool on a Word document comes up. Well, I use red for my marks. I could use blue too, but I use red. He said, I'm glad to see all that red. And I said, why? And he said, because for me, this is a learning opportunity. I said, cool.
Good.
Yeah,
That's
cool. That's
great.
cool. Yeah.
Do you remember your first book that you edited? Do you have a story that you remember from that?
I do not remember it. It was a friend of mine said, will you edit my book? And I said, sure. And then I had to figure what that meant. I was not an editor till that moment. And so I had to get the Chicago standard of Chicago. I can't do it now. The book that's the guideline for writing, because there's some different rules for book writing than there is for like marketing writing and advertising writing. And so that's the thing. I do not remember the first book. I remember some of my favorite books. I remember some of my favorite stories, but I cannot tell you what my friend wrote. But yeah, it's been, well, I've done quite a few books, until maybe, I don't know. I never even counted. I have several bookshelves full of books I've edited. So, and one of my other favorite things is I tell my authors, when you get the first copy and hold it in your hand, I want someone to take a picture of you holding your book, because there is not a more beautiful smile than that moment when that person says, I did it. I completed it. I got it done. I'm so proud of myself, that kind of stuff. And I love those pictures when they send them to me, because it just brings everything full circle, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to that question. Do you have like a criteria that you follow when you're editing someone's book? Or do you just kind of like just start it reading the book, you get into the zone, you pull out your red pen and you just mark away?
Yeah, well, everything today is done on a Word document. You just get that all set up, and it shows the person what changes you made, and then they can make their changes on top of your changes. I mean, I basically start out and, just go to page to page. Most authors don't want to see it till it's completely done. They don't want to see the first 40 pages or like that. And I use it's called a tracking tool, and that shows my changes. And then if I have any questions for the author, I will write the questions right there and put them in yellow highlight. So I'm saying, you've used this same expression 6 times already in the book. Go back and change some. Because that's not my job to go back and change that. My job is to tell them, because they have to learn to do that. So it's that kind of stuff. And then and then once I give it to them, then they make the corrections. Then I go back to it again and make sure it's, I call it clean. There should be no more markings left when they get it back, that they answered this question, they answered that question, they took this out, stuff like that is just what they have to do as the author, because I can't do that for them. I shouldn't be
Right.
making those kind of decisions for them. Mine is
Yeah.
grammar, punctuation, word flow, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Especially the word flow. You were my editor.
Yes,
So, and I
thank you.
appreciated your gentle nudge with, and it was a nudge because you were just curious, like, how are things going? I haven't heard from you in a while. And that's all I needed. Like, I knew I needed to get back to you and get this process moving. And what is the biggest mistake that you see writers make when they're trying to publish a book?
Do you mean when they're writing it or when they're trying to publish it?
Well, maybe both. I didn't think of it. I guess I just thought of it as they were trying to publish it. But yeah, what kind of mistakes are you
Well,
seeing people make?
a lot of times as I use the example, so comma, they overuse the word. It might be that, it might be which, it might be, the other day was one, he had used the word creepy. Creepy music, creepy, I'm going, have you got something to do with creepy? I just like to tease him. So it's that kind of stuff. And that's the advantage of the computer today. You can go into the word find and put in the word creepy. And then what I do then is the replacement word is creepy with 3 X's behind it. And then it says change all. So that when I'm editing, I don't have to think about creepy. It smashes my face. It comes out, I see those 3 big X's, and then I can go in and decide how to change that one, or maybe leave that one creepy, but change the next one. But that's the advantage we have today. But most of us do not know we overuse words. And I don't generally pick it up until about the 3rd chapter where I go, gosh, and then I just do a run thing. 237 times they use, this. And it's just so much of what writing is we're writing for people to read it, but we also read it in our ears. And if people would read more things out loud, our ears hear things our eyes do not see. And it's quite interesting. Like the word only. I used to teach a class on this, and we use the word, I only have eyes for you. Where should the word only be in that sentence? I only have eyes for you. I have eyes only for you, etc., etc. And each one changes the meaning just a little bit. So if you have a sentence that has the word only in it, you read that out loud and your ears will say, there is where it goes. But you may read it 6 times and never ever do it without putting the sound. It's just amazing. But that's a very common misplaced word, only. Very, very much. A lot of
I remember learning that from you. It was 5 years ago that I published, and that it was a flashback.
No, not 5 already? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I try to also teach them something as I go along, even if they never write another book, but they're going to write memos and stuff like that. And just to make sure, my number one job is making sure the book is clear, like that. So what I do with people when I start with them, I'll say, has anyone read this book? No. I said, well, that's your first thing. You find 2 or 3 friends that you trust will be honest to you, and you give them 5 or 6 questions. And these people are called beta readers. That means first readers. Give them 5 or 6 questions that you want to know if you made clear in your book. And if these friends are honest, they will say yes or no. They'll give you, and you will have an absolutely clear understanding of whether what you thought you accomplished, you did. So until they've had somebody else read it, I don't want to see it, because especially if I don't know much about the subject, but their friends might. So, I tell this story about Deb, who wrote a book about her son when he was born. He was very sick. He hardly made it through the first day of his life. He's now 25. So when she wrote her book she and he wrote a book about his life, and she did not write about the day he was born. And she said to me, it's just too hard. It's just too hard. She asked 10 friends, 5 of them said, write about the day he was born. She did, and it was the best chapter in the book. But because it was so hard. But I mean, she learned that, like, you ask people and that's what they want to know. And if you write the whole book and never tell them about what happened that day, you're really cheating. You're disrespecting your reader, exactly. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it is true. I have to tell you the story, because when we talked earlier, you said, how did you get started?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a 4-H'er, I think I was a junior or senior in high school, and I was the oldest in my 4-H club. So of course I got these lovely jobs every year at the county fair, every club had to have its own booth on some subject. And our club, called the Eden Eagles, because we were in Eden Township, we had a booth on a 3M product called Scotchlite that shone and reflected. And so we did all this stuff. So I did all this poster and everything. Well, we won at the county fair, so I mean, we get to go to the state fair. So when I get the poster out of the thing, it's been damaged enough, so I have to redo it. So I'm redoing it. And you did it then with stencils. Do you know what I mean?
Yep,
You draw
I
around
do.
the letter. Pain in the butt, pain in the butt. So I did this thing and I get it all done. We go up to the state fair. I put it up in the booth and I look up. Instead of saying Scotch lighting bridges, it's Scotchlight brides.
Oops.
But I know the way people read that nobody will notice it. And I just had there was nothing I could do about it. I mean, I didn't have any supplies that, I just had but it was that idea of how quickly an error can show up. And I mean, if you just said to me, you use the word brides in here, I go, no, I didn't, that kind of stuff. My funnest stories was I did a memoir for a man who was a very well-known businessman in town and very successful, traveled all over the world, did all kinds of things. And I was working basically under his daughter and son-in-law. They brought me into the project. So I said to the daughter one day, I said, your mother's hardly mentioned in his memoir. She said, well, I'll talk to him. And I said, no, let me take care of it. So I said, Fred, you don't mention your wife much. Well, yeah, I do. I said, well, not really. I don't think so. And he said, well, yeah, when we went to Brazil, she got sick, so I couldn't go fishing. And so, it's just that perspective. He was quite an egotistical gentleman.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
You've also written books that and will range from humorous to deeply personal. So what's your favorite part of when it comes to writing your own books versus editing somebody else's?
My least favorite is worrying about mistakes. I do have friends that are editors, so I don't have to worry about that. My favorite thing is the research and the learning and actually accomplishing it, saying, I'm going to do this book. I have a saying that I got from somebody, it wasn't mine. You wouldn't saddle a horse if you never intended to ride it. So don't continue to talk about a book you're going to write. Do it or stop talking about it. Your friends and family are tired of you talking about it.
That's right. That's right.
We all know something. I'm writing a book. Well, how is it? Well, I never just really have, either do it, that's what the story is. And I am not a publisher or that other level. When I work with people and I think I've accomplished some sort of level of trust with them, all of a sudden they've gone off and found some publisher online or something and they get screwed. Just terrible. They get taken for a lot of money, a poor quality product and everything. And they never ask me, do you know anybody I can talk to, or what is your opinion on this? And I think that's the worst thing somebody can do to themselves, is to think, I'm an author now, I have to know everything. And I've dealt with more than one person, I have to, and it's really, it's really true. One of the worst things ever is to find an error in your book when it's published. I mean, it is so embarrassing because it's around forever, and it might not, and I know all kinds of big name people have, because the big publishing houses are spending less time proofreading. I don't know why. I had another woman who was writing a memoir and her husband was not a nice man. And she told me, she wrote in her manuscript that he had given her an STD. And I asked her if her adult children, i.e. his children, knew this. And her face went blank, but I told her not to worry because I'd already changed it. I took it out and I said, he just gave me another reason to divorce him. Because if your grandchildren look at this book, you're talking about their grandpa, and a book is forever. I mean, I just looked at a book that it was done in 1943, and it's like, it's there. It's as if it was yesterday. It's written the same way.
Well, you wrote a book about Charlie,
Oh, yes, Charlie.
and
Uh,
that took a few years. Well, even more than a few years, right? It had been sitting, the manuscript had been sitting in your closet for years and years before you actually pulled it out.
I'll give you the short version.
Okay.
I was introduced to this lovely man who was born in England during the war. He was 15 years old when the war was the worst in England,
Which
and
war?
to World War II. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry,
The big one.
the big one. Yeah, and so I was brought in by a publisher to interview him and write his story. And his wife was very excited to have him the story written. And he and I spent about 2 hours once or twice a week. And we had such a good time. I'd interview him, and he gave me details in such clarity that I practically could write just exactly what he said. I think it was about 20 hours into this process. His wife informs me she doesn't want to finish the book and I should quit now. And I was very hurt because she did not let me have access to him. So I never got to say goodbye. And for him, I just disappeared, which he must have been really frustrated. So that was 2001. He died in 2008. And when I moved from our home to another facility, I took this book along with me for some dumb reason because I knew he was dead. But it just was such an incredible part of my life. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more, Charlie came to me one day in the back of my head and he said, "How come you didn't finish my story? I thought you liked my story." And I said, "Charlie, you're dead. You can't talk to me." Well, he came back a second time. And I thought, I'll do it. I don't know where his children are. I don't know where his wife is. Today with people not having anything but cell phones, they're harder to find. You can't go to a
Mm-hmm.
phone book. And so I started doing it, but I only had about 25,000 words, which is not a book. So I started doing side, they talk about Google is like one giant rabbit hole. You start looking up X and all of a sudden you're looking up Y. And so that's what I was doing. And I was just having the best time learning all this stuff and figuring out where to put it in his book. So it ends up with 55,000 words. It's still, a skinny little book, but I completed it. And I'm sure Charlie knows because he seemed to be watching over me. And it's called Faces of Boys, Hearts of Men. And it's about the young men who get involved in military and flying and death and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Good
It was
for
so
you.
fascinating.
It
Pardon?
must have been hard.
Well, I was annoyed at her for not letting me finish that for his two children.
Hmm.
And, but I had no say over it. So,
So, a personal question, the book that I said was my favorite, the about polio, how did that one come to be?
my favorite cousin on my dad's side got polio when he was 5 years old. So it was
Okay.
always a big part of our relationship. And he would talk about it some. He would talk about meeting Sister Kenny, and he would talk about this and that. And it was just always fascinating. And one of the last times I saw him, he told me that he was going to stop taking all his meds, which I didn't know what that meant, but he was ready to go. He was done with having another surgery. And so I thought, kind of a tribute to him in my own heart, because he was such a lovely man, is I started collecting these stories and found such fascinating things that people told, and both good stories and good things and bad things, and how people handled it. Because the story's called "Ordinary People Overcome Extraordinary Challenges." Because at that time of life, there were no family had two cars. There was one story is a little boy, I think he was 8 years old. He got on the bus from his house and went down to the hospital for his treatments because mother couldn't go because two of the babies in the house were sick. Here's an 8-year-old taking a bus downtown to a medical clinic.
Yeah. Well, from the country to downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah. I got to do a little research on Sister Kenny because she was one interesting. He said she was a powerful woman. He said you could just feel her presence. And I did that because it was a personal interest. And of course, I didn't know, I just had a little bit of Ronnie's story, but I didn't know any of the other people that I interviewed. One person would tell me somebody else, and I would just pass that way. You got to call my friend Mary. And so, and then I talked to some people involved with the polio. And in the 1990s, something called post-polio syndrome showed up. And so you may have had a bad leg for much of your life, but it was okay and you were getting around. Well, this syndrome affected that leg, and all of a sudden it became worthless. And so that was another tragedy. I mean, they might have been sick when they were 5 years old, and now they are well into the adulthood, and all of a sudden they can hardly do anything. And so that was a big challenge for families. So
Right. Yeah. My mom had polio. I'm fortunate to be here. I mean, she had it when she was in her 20s. And yeah, she went to Sister Kenny. She did all the treatment. I wish the book was written in 28. No, when was it published? 2018,
2013.
2013. Okay. So unfortunately, my mom didn't get to read the book, but I know she would have loved it. It was very well written and it does answer a lot of questions about polio. So yeah, it was very good. And then you've also written, I know you have a really great sense of humor. So did you write any humorous books that you remember?
I have one called Man Overboard. My husband's getting a new boat. That was that one. And then I wrote one called The Eye of a Woman, and it's filled with maybe 200 one-liners, all from the point of view of a woman. And I have another one. I'm thinking about making a book. It may not ever get done. It's called Short Shorts That Fit Every Woman.
Okay, I'll look for that one. I'll help you promote it. I love it. Okay. Do you have a
So
theme? Do you have a reason behind that one?
it's all short stories or poetry, all again from the point of view of a
Mm,
woman. So
yeah. And then
yeah,
do you get into poetry? Do you dabble poetry a little bit or no?
yeah, I do. I don't mine pretty much all rhyme. The others I can't handle the ones that I read and I don't understand.
Hmm.
I don't like other people making me feel stupid because I can do that myself. I was just looking through my notes to see if there's anything I want to be sure and tell you. Yeah, the idea, I've been working with people that I know or come to me who want their family story written. They might have done some research, or they might, like you say, the word nudge, they might someone to move you along. One woman wrote about her grandfather that she never met, and she's in her 90s, and he came from Poland in 1833.
Wow.
And she did this research and stuff, and it was just, and she was so thrilled, and just for her family, just for her family. I've done about a dozen of those, and I try to encourage people. Now I know there's a couple of those companies out there now, like Storyworth, and there's another one that can help you move that along. And I've had friends that have used that very successfully. I worked with a woman a few years ago editing her book. She had lived in overseas kind of as missionaries, and she wrote some incredible stories about that country that's now in the news a lot. And now this new book she wrote was a local book, and I didn't know anything about it, but we have mutual friends, and her friend said, well, Missy wrote another book, and I said, oh, I hadn't heard from Missy. So about a month later, Missy called me and she said, I wrote a book. I didn't have it proofread. I didn't have it edited. I made it into books, gave it to friends who were telling me how many errors they find. So she said, please edit it.
Oh.
She wasted time and money,
Hmm.
and going back, but she used somebody where she hadn't ordered like 1,000 books or 500 books. She just had a small quantity. But
Oh,
it's
that's
still the
good.
idea. I mean, to have your friends tell you this book is filled with errors. Oh, okay, okay. So, yeah. The
And is there anything else that's really changed since the first editing that you started doing, other than going from a pen and paper to computers? Are there any other changes? that you've noticed through the years?
I don't think I can say there is. I mean, it's still, the word is the word. You want to make sure it's clear. You want to make sure that the reader understands it, and that you have something worth writing about, something worth people spending their money and their time reading, you know. I mean, I get books given to me by friends for other reasons, and I'm going, yeah, I'll get around to that one day, you know, because it takes a lot of time. I particularly love doing people's memoirs and anything that they're writing about that they're passionate about. Maybe they're a speaker or in their business. And those are the most fun for me, because to see this person just tell me these joyful things about themselves, when so many people are down on themselves and hard on themselves. So that is really, you know, the kind. I've done one fantasy and one mystery. And I only do that if I am 100% confident that the person writing it knows about fantasies, what should and shouldn't happen, you know, and the same in mysteries. You know, like I made some joke about the clue game, you know, where I said where the butler was killed in the kitchen. Why wasn't he killed in the bedroom? You know, that's a mystery. I wouldn't. Why did you kill him in the kitchen? You know, I should be asking, and that kind of stuff. I don't know anything about mysteries because I don't read them. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
You're sticking with what you're good at.
The other thing that I do is when someone said, I'm writing a book, and I said, here's what you do. You send an email note to 8 or 10 people that you respect, will be honest with you. And you say to them, I am writing a book about my life on the farm. Okay, just made that up. And you give them 5 or 8 questions. You say, what's the one thing I need to include? What have you heard me talk about? What did you want me to elaborate on? So that they will tell you the story. It's like the story with Deb and her child and the day he was born. She needed to have that in the book, but she couldn't do it. So I mean, what do I want to make sure I don't leave out because it's of interest to my reader? Because when I'm writing it, it's all about me. But when it's done, it's all about you, the reader.
Do you have any preference with going with a publisher versus self-publishing?
Well, some of it has to do with your income issues. Some has to do with what you want to accomplish. I mean, you know, there's lots of small presses here in town that do some pretty wonderful job marketing, because you can have the best book ever, but if nobody knows about it, you know, and you yourself, I did my Charlie book straight with Amazon. So I didn't have to buy a large quantity. Now when I wanted, I ordered like 20 from them, and I'm having them in about a week. And that's all my investment, because I just didn't want to have any more invested money into that project. I give them 2 or 3 names of people. Call these people and talk to them, ask questions, ask how they market you, how they do this. Do you ever do young adult? Do you do any memoir? You know, what do you do? Or give them their website so they can just, because it's not my decision. I can only decide who to tell them about, but it's not my decision what they do. And this young college kid that I mentioned, you know, he's well, I don't know what he's going to do, because he's just going to start the research now. But everything I just told you, I just gave him 3 names to check, what to do, how to do it, so that he can make a sound decision based on what he knows. So
would you happen to have any advice that you'd like to give the younger Connie that first started out being an editor and maybe first writing her first book? If you look back,
it's always good to have people who are ahead of you in the game, and you can call them and say, how do I handle this? You know, what do I do? How can I tell them that this is not working? You know, whatever. Because if you haven't experienced it, you could just make some terrible mistakes and say things to people. But if you ask Mary Smith, who's been editing for 10 more years than you, she'll say, oh, I had that same thing happen, and this, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's, and listen to people and read and learn, and again, you know, ask for advice, because we can't start out smart. We got to get smart.
That's right. We need to learn from our mistakes, and we all make mistakes.
Oh,
Well, come.
I didn't tell you the other thing. When I first moved to the city from where I grew up, we didn't
Oh, we can
call
put Morgan, Minnesota on the map.
Morgan, Minnesota, yes. We didn't call home unless there was really a problem. We wrote home. So I'd get home and there my letters were on the dining room table with words circled. And my dad had been a country school teacher, words circled. I was just so annoyed at him. And then finally, as I got to be more of an adult, I realized my dad was telling me, no matter who you're writing to, do it right.
Nice.
But
That's a
at
good
the time
story.
when you're a kid, but that idea like, well, at least I wrote you. Well, it's the wrong word, is the wrong. I'll never forget that. It's like yesterday in many ways. I tell people that after your book is done, unless you might be an English teacher or something, have someone else proofread it. Because if your editor missed it going through it twice, she would miss it the third time more than likely. What I saw the other day on Facebook, somebody had put, maybe you saw it, it said, I would like the confidence of a misspelled word that was missed by 14 people. It's great fun because I can see people, like I said, when they get their book and take a picture, I can see people accomplishing things, something they wanted to do. And I mean, I am personally right now working on my own life memoirs, and I told somebody, I said, I don't care if my kids read a word because I'm having so darn much fun. Because we're mostly remembering the fun stuff. Which puppy did that, which best friend did that. I mean, the kinds of things we remember when we're talking about growing up and the experiences. And so that's what I'm doing for myself in my spare time. And it's been quite fun because then I'll say to my husband, when did we do that? And then we have a conversation about that delightful trip, or, it's a good thing. And like I said, I've had people use this company called Storyworth, and she and her husband were both married before, so they did their own story, not as a couple. And she said it was so much fun. She said the things we talked about and laughed about and with our kids, and she said it was just so great, things we'd forgotten about that weren't even important.
Well, I love it. So with that, how can people find you, Connie? Because you're an editor and you still have a service that you can provide, and you have a website, right?
Yes, my website is kind of complicated. It's called Words and Deeds Inc. inc.com.
And what we will do, we'll put that in the show notes for listeners to find.
And the best place to go is where it says hearing from other clients saying how, they were struggling or whatever, or they had so much fun or whatever it was. It's just different clients talking about over the years. So
okay.
Anyway.
Like testimonials on your website?
Endorsements, okay. I call them in this
case. Gotcha. Yeah, that's nice because you've worked with hundreds of people.
Yes. Of all ages and sizes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And when you did your book, do you remember any particular challenges you felt?
Mine was a book about, it was a book of affirmations. So it was really more of a healing process for myself. And I felt like I was ahead of the game, that no one was talking about mindset. And this was all pre-pandemic. And then all of a sudden pandemic hit, and then everybody was slowing down and looking at affirmations and reading self-help books. So yeah, I just, like I said before, it was just kind of a gentle nudge, like just you would check in, how are things going? And I knew that meant I need to move forward, because I didn't want to be one of those people that sat with this manuscript for 10 years. So it all worked out.
You wanted to saddle that horse and ride, right?
I wanted to saddle the horse and ride. All right. Well,
and thank you did.
Yes, I did. Thank you so much, Connie, for doing the editing for me in my book, and for the work that you've done for so many other people, making the difference for so many other people, because that extra editing just gives a little bit boost of confidence that makes you feel good about your book and about your story
and about yourself.
and yourself. Here's the deal. We didn't even peek some of the stories that I've heard from Connie when I attend the meetings, the Women of Words meetings. And she is an amazing editor. And again, I would never have become a published author without Connie just checking in on me, not making me feel guilty, not posing any judgment on what I was doing as I was moving forward and becoming a published author. So much, much gratitude to this lady, and now even more that she joined me here today on this episode of Time for You Evolved. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Time for You Evolve for Female Entrepreneurs. If you loved this episode as much as I did, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and if you want to support the show, leaving a review goes a long way. A special shout out to our amazing partners and sponsors. Their support allows us to continue bringing you engaging content every week. And with a big thank you, I look forward to seeing you next time. If you're ready to supercharge your email marketing and automation game, look no further than my favorite autoresponder, ActiveCampaign. It's the ultimate all-in-one platform designed to turn your contacts into customers and your customers into loyal advocates. Imagine having a tool that not only understands your customers, but anticipates their needs. That's what ActiveCampaign does. With its powerful customer experience automation, you can create personalized journeys that nurture leads, drive sales, and build lasting relationships. The biggest reason I chose ActiveCampaign after trying other autoresponders is because I wanted to make sure my emails were being delivered and not going into spam. I need to know that my emails actually get to the people I'm emailing so that I have good engagement rates, response rates, and click-through rates on every email I send. Then I can have peace of mind that what I send out about my blog posts or upcoming events gets delivered and that people get to read what I write. ActiveCampaign offers live support through chats, webinars, and in-person study halls, again, which is so different from those other email services I've tried in the past. If you're ready to up your marketing game, go to my website, lisarcarmichael.com/activecampaign, which is my partner link, and sign up for a free trial. Experience firsthand the power of ActiveCampaign and take your marketing to a new level. Hi friends, let's have a heart-to-heart about something that's been a significant part of my life, skincare. As a busy female entrepreneur, I need a quick and effective routine. About a year or so ago, I stumbled across my secret weapon, Droplet. It's made a remarkable difference in my skin. Now, I'm a self-proclaimed skincare junkie. I've tried it all, from serums to spa treatments, and even once selling a natural body care line. So when I learned about Droplet, I knew I had to give it a shot. Droplet delivers personalized skincare with its micro infuser, penetrating ingredients deep into your skin. It's like a Nespresso for skincare. It's quick, easy, with capsules that are recyclable. No cleanup, no hassle. Droplet's formulas are clinical strength, dermatologist recommended, and are cruelty-free. It's a skincare lover's dream. If you're ready to evolve beyond the basics, head over to the Droplet link on my website today where you can start your own personalized Droplet routine. Investing in a good skincare routine is crucial for any woman, especially us busy entrepreneurs. First impressions matter, and you want to put your best face forward. Droplet offers free consultations with their estheticians to address your skin concerns. Here's to glowing, radiant, and fiercely beautiful you, no matter what age you are. Get your 20% savings by heading over to my website, lisarcarmichael.com/droplet.